Ciao Paisans, welcome back to your favorite Serie A podcast. This is Calcio Culture. I am your host today, Logs. I'm here with my co-host, Motts. We are missing our other host, Vos, this week, but in his place, two of the very finest fans in all the land. Some, if you guys know, the Paisans of the year last season. We do have the biggest Roma fans this side of the Atlantic. We have Sam and Nate Frasco on the pod for you today. We will be kicking to our next team in our season previews for this upcoming Serie A season, and it made just the most sense to have these guys on the pod again. Probably the most loyal Paisans for us, and we really appreciate them and all of their commentary, all of their interaction on all the socials. They know where to find us. You guys know where to find us. X, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. YouTube especially. That's where we love it, at Calcio Culture FC. But Motts, how we feeling?
We're feeling good. I'm excited. Great guests to have. Want to kick it to both Nate and Sam. Let them introduce themselves to you guys, how you became Roma fans. But yeah, excited for this one.
100%. Well, boys, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having us. We're huge fans of the podcast. Like, genuinely, when it goes like over a week within an episode, we're texting each other like, "Where's the next Calcio Culture?" So really love the show.
You guys let us know when we're slacking for sure.
Yeah, so guys, it's been awesome. So happy to be here.
Love it. Tell us a little bit. Where did this Roma fandom come from? Are you guys even Italian? Are you guys real Paisans? Where is this love for the game stemming from?
Nate, do you want me to kind of explain the story there? Yeah. So two things kind of happened simultaneously. During COVID, I started trying to learn Italian just as something to do because there wasn't much else to do. And then I got really into the U.S. men's national team. But then when, like the summer competitions for international competitions ended, I decided I wanted more soccer to watch because I was really enjoying it and figured might as well pick an Italian team. Found out that Paramount Plus was going to have some broadcasts in Italian. So help with the language aspects. And then it's just a matter of picking a team that we had, some family kind of connections to. So we have like our heritage, I guess, is outside Rome, but Roma was kind of the closest team. Now Pisa is another Serie A team. We have some closeness too in terms of where our family's from. So picture Roma.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I kind of just jumped on bandwagon. Tim was like, "Dude, you want to watch a game?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." The Bears suck, so I could use some new sports to watch, and soccer sounds great. So yeah, I think it's been like, this will be the 5th season that we've been like fans, but which is, I guess, not that long of a time, but we've watched every single game since we became fans. So that was great. Like, since the replays and stuff. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I haven't missed a minute of like Conference League, Europa League, Serie A, Coppa. So we're really invested. We like read every. So hasn't been a long time, but we love it.
That's awesome. Love the dedication. I think that's a lot of the stories that you'll hear from fans these days, just coming out of COVID, coming out of soccer in general, being a lot more accessible from a streaming perspective. Paramount Plus has done, as you may or may not have heard on the pod, an okay job, although we continue to give our feedback and we hope that they're listening. But it has been an absolute pleasure to have Paramount's coverage over the last couple of years. So certainly hear you guys on that.
The accessibility at the very least is good. So.
Yeah. 100%.
For sure.
Accessibility, coverage, maybe not so great, but the accessibility. For sure. So with that being said, thank you guys again for coming on today. We got a lot to cover, so we'll jump right into it. I figure I'll give the Paisans a little lay of the land, and then we'll jump to you guys for some commentary in between. So for those of you that are just joining us for our second season, a quick summary of where Roma ended up last year. 5th place in Serie A after an absolutely turbulent start to the season. I think it was the biggest roller coaster of a team in all of Serie A, if not all of the top 5 leagues last year. So they will be heading back to the Europa League with that 5th place spot. Speaking of Europa League, Roma did lose in the round of 16 to Bilbao. on aggregate there 4-3. A tough exit. I thought they had them, but that second leg just gave it all up. And then fortunately for me, unfortunately for them, did lose to Milan in the quarterfinals of Coppa Italia on our way to losing in the finals. But lucky enough for you guys, a little bit of a bye this year. Don't have to play those 2 extra games on the front end. So definitely setting up for possibly a deep run. Do have to get by Inter on that side of the bracket. But with that being said, I've said it a couple times now. Biggest roller coaster of a team last season. Going into this season, how are you guys feeling? What were the emotions like when the season finally came to a halt last year? And how do you avoid what happened at the beginning of last season going into this one?
Felt, I guess, man, like a bunch of feelings. I think towards the end of the season, last season, which it has kind of happened to me consistently, is like I start to fade off towards the end of the season, especially when I see Roma doing like what they've done for the last 4 years, which is essentially trick us into thinking that they're going to be able to finish top 4, and either because of them or because of other people, mostly because of them, because they'll like drop points to teams that they shouldn't drop points to, but like then to other teams that we're hoping will drop points, not dropping points. They just kind of like just barely miss it. And then like once the season ends, I'm like, all right, cool. Where's my content? Who are we getting rid of? What's happening now?
Exactly.
But I think last year was weird just because of the coaching turnover. And I guess there's a bunch of stuff that sort of happened that getting into would take us a while with all that. But I think this year we know that it's essentially like year 0, right? Gasperini coming in, completely new style of play. I think it's exciting, and I think we have the opportunity to be good. I thought that also last year. But I think the biggest thing this year is like just be consistent. There was so much turnover and crazy stuff last season that if they can just like maintain some level of consistency this season, I think they'll do pretty well.
Yeah, it was crushing to miss out on Champions League by, it was like 1 or 2 points. Juve, it was looking like Juve might even lose to Venezia on the last match day of the season. We were right there. And if it hadn't been for kind of a late loss to Atalanta, I think it was like the 3rd to last match day, we would have been there. So the guy who's coming in to coach us is the guy who made sure we didn't make Champions League, which is kind of a weird dynamic. So very happy we have Gasperini.
Yeah, I mean, the dude had our number for like 4 years, right? I feel like our record against Atalanta for the past 4 seasons has been awful. So it was like we had been on that run of not losing, and Sam and I had been talking about that. I was like, we're absolutely going to cough one up. We have to. There's no way. And of course,
we knew it was Atalanta. Yeah, that was
yeah.
To be fair, Gasperini's had basically everyone's number besides Inzaghi since he's been managing. So it's not like you guys are the only one in that boat there.
Feels like it.
No,
I'm certainly on the other end of it as well.
Yeah, Roma's pretty much every other big team have the better end of it against Roma the past few years. But I feel like we've got at least one big win against everyone, but Atalanta.
We'll see if we can mix that up this year. You guys bring up the man of the hour. Gasperini does come in to replace Ranieri. Ranieri takes a position in the management for Roma. Now, this was probably, I would say, the biggest headline signing from a managerial perspective of the league this summer. What do you guys think that he brings to the table that he's just going to replicate from his years at Atalanta? Again, was at Atalanta, 6-7 years now, maybe even longer. Very consistent, if not anything else. Never topping the league, but certainly always teetering in that top 4 spot. And I think what he's biggest known for is taking young guys and developing them and bringing them to the next level. So from your perspective, what is Gasperini going to bring in from his Atalanta days, and what do you think that he changes up, just given the fact that I do think that this Roma side, and I'll talk about it in a second with the transfer window, this Roma side has a nicer core, I would say, a longer standing core than what he was working with in Bergamo. So what is he bringing? Sam, what do you think he's really bringing from Bergamo? What does he have to change up?
So I know Nate wants to talk about like some of the play style stuff, but I did just want to kind of comment. Like, I think one of the things that attracted him to Roma was not necessarily like the player churn that he experienced at Atalanta. It's like, we're going to get this great young, undervalued player, kind of a no-name player, turn him into a star, and then immediately sell him for profit. I think one of Gasperini's frustrations with Atalanta was the fact that he did that, and that's why he felt he reached the ceiling. And I think he got a commitment from Roma. If he builds some of these players out, they're not just going to turn and sell all of them. So he can keep his core around for once. So I'm excited for that.
Sure. So Navro play style, do you think he brings back that 3-4-3? Do we have the roster here to replicate that very interchangeable front three as well? Or is he going to change up that play style?
I think he might change it up a little bit, but for the most part, I think we've got it. We'll get to it, I think, with the market. But, the missing piece right now, I think, is somebody on the left. But I think he's going to keep that like high fitness, high level pressing, people on the ball. I watched the friendly with Everton just on replay over the weekend, and it was like already very clear that we're, as a team, probably in the best shape we've like ever seen them in, which is awesome. People are all over the field, and it seems like the pace has increased. I think, in the Mourinho years, we were watching very like slow counterattacking, low block, like slow build up football, and Ranieri went back to that too, which was like he provided consistency and it worked out really well. Like he just simplified everything, where I think for the first time since we've been watching, really since like that short period of DDR, we're going to see like actually progressive, fast moving, flowing, attacking football, which is pretty exciting. It's like a win's a win, but sometimes it's like watching paint dry. So
I've been there. Logan's going to be there this year with Allegri.
I don't want to talk about it yet. I don't want to talk about it yet. I'm not there. I'm not mentally ready for that conversation yet.
We'll wait for the Milan preview for that.
Yeah. That'll be next week. Paisans, keep an ear out for it. Look out for our podcast.
Awesome.
That will be next week. I promise you that.
Not to go too far left here, but matter of weeks, Milan's now having a great window after a terrible window 2 weeks ago. But yeah, that'll be next week.
It's been a big change up for us. But speaking of windows, Motts, why don't you, big stats guy Motts here, why don't you take us through the numbers here? What have they done? Who they sold? Who they brought in? What are the numbers looking like?
Yeah, this is pretty classic Roma here, spending about what they sell, right? They're never too far one way or the other. They have 48 million out in Lafay, Zalewski, Paredes, Shomurodov, Tammy, Hummels retired, and then they have 54 million in Wesley. You guys want to take a shot at the midfielder's name? I know, Sam, I think you commented how to pronounce it, or was it Nate?
That was Nate. Yeah.
No,
Nate's got it down.
And
That was Nate.
yeah, I could definitely still be wrong, but somebody like on one of the forums were on like kind of spelled it out. So I think it's Aynaoui. So like Aynahwee. But El Aynaoui, I think is pretty exciting. I was watching him also in the friendly, and he's like the everywhere man. That was really fun to watch.
Yep, and then you've also brought in another striker in Evan Ferguson, and then a center back from Verona. So 48 million out, 54 million in the door. What are thoughts on the players in the door? Let's go with Sam. What do you think?
Yeah, so El Aynaoui. The fans were like, a lot of fans were really pissed because we were trying to get Richard Rios, who ended up going to Benfica from Palmeiras in Brazil. But we ended up with this guy from the French league and said, I'm really excited about him. He had 8 goals as a center midfielder last year in League One. Yeah, I think he's like a really good fit for Gasperini. I think he's going to pair up well with Kone as a center midfielder in that kind of like 2-man midfield. He's aggressive. He's dominant, good ball skills, good passing. He makes good runs forward. So yeah, I think Wesley is kind of like the banner signing, but El Aynaoui is going to be really, really good too. So I think he's going to surprise people.
Nate, how do you feel about bringing in finally a viable second striker, in my opinion, in Evan Ferguson?
Super excited about it. Yeah, I mean, he's also young, which I think has a ton of upside. I think there were some injury concerns previously, but if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be really good, and a really good like second option. I know he and Dovbyk have somewhat similar like physical profiles, but the way they play is definitely different. And I think that's a good shakeup. I think if we're going to be one, playing in multiple competitions, but two, if something's not working, you can swap them and kind of change your gameplay a little bit. So I love Shmordov. I think a lot of the Roma fans are extremely grateful to him for last season too, but it's nice to actually have somebody who's like, yeah, this guy's a real striker and could actually bang in some goals and really grow with the team. So that's awesome.
100%.
Yeah,
for those of you
he's
guys
good business too. He was just going to say, I think it's an option to buy at 35 million if he does well and Roma wants him, which could be an absolute steal. Like he had a $100 million price tag on his head a few years ago for the injury. So.
100%. And again, Paisans, for those of you that don't know, Evan Ferguson had showed out about 2 seasons ago on Brighton in the Prem, had tremendous promise. Again, like Sam said, about $100 million price tag on the way out, but then did have some injury woes last year, went out on loan to try to restart, get some momentum, and just never got back to that form. So if there is any resemblance of the Evan Fergusons that we saw 2 years ago, then that $35 million obligation is going to be a phenomenal price tag to let it rip. And I totally agree. I think that from a play style perspective, Dovbyk definitely back to goal is more of a target man. Definitely, I would say, a broader, bigger presence. Evan Ferguson is actually a lot more agile, even given his size. And I think that him getting out into the wider spaces will certainly be a different approach than having Dovbyk up top. But in any case, with the amount of games that you guys are going to be playing, having these two strikers is going to be absolutely imperative. And kind of going back to what we were talking about with Gasperini, this is reflective of what he tried to do with Scamacca and Retegui, right? Unfortunately, Scamacca goes down with an injury a day before, and obviously they bring in Retegui after that, but I think that was kind of what the two were going to be playing off each other like would have been, in that you do have a broader, Dovbyk back to goal, just target guy up top, and then Evan Ferguson can come in and bring a little bit more speed from that perspective. So, Motts, I know that you had this question as well. From my perspective, and I know that there's been a couple of, I guess, battles here in the transfer window, but is Roma doing enough? Are they doing enough with bringing in such a name brand and Gasperini at manager? Are they doing enough to fill out that roster to give him and his technical abilities the best opportunity to take advantage of 3 competitions, to take advantage of, going into this season as another favorite to finish top 4 and build upon a roster that last year was promising without the managerial solidity, but now has a little bit of continuity?
Are you asking me?
No, I just know that you had this question, so Nate or Sam, I'm happy to hear.
Yeah, I think it's enough for now. I think it's enough for season 1. I think there is still a lot of dead weight in the roster, players who are really not supposed to be part of the project, who it's gonna take some time to offload them. Pellegrini and Cristante being the main 2 offenders there. So I think getting rid of their wages, which are very high, is going to be significant towards bringing more of the Gasperini type players in.
So if Roma don't make another signing for the rest of the window, you guys are good with it? You're good with this team rolling into the season?
I think no.
So who do you want?
So we need a left attacking left winger type player, and that would be, in my opinion, that's like the final piece that's missing. Of course, there's always more work that can be done, but that's like the essential component. I think we need to feel good going into the season to have like a starting, like day in, day out starter at that position for Gasperini.
I saw recently, I think I saw today or yesterday, news, a little bit of rumors going around. Don't want to comment too much on the rumors, but you guys actually being linked to someone that Juventus has been linked to throughout the window, who could be a solution at the left wing in Sancho. Would you want him to come in? Would you do not want that profile? He does fit the left wing.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him, like in general, from a playing standpoint, from what I've seen and or heard. Like I know it would cost a decent amount. And then I know paying him would also cost a decent amount. And it seems like what we've run into in the past is like signing these somewhat high profile players on big wages. And then they're like, we're kind of stuck with them. A lot of times they don't end up performing. You know, if there was an opportunity to maybe get a loan, which I'm not sure if that's possible, then sure. But I think trying to buy him or anything like that, I think would just cause problems for us in the future. And I'd rather somebody who we could bring in and develop, like, over somebody who's maybe a little bit more established and struggling a little bit.
He's on the last year of his deal, so we wouldn't be able to get him on a loan. I think the Sancho stance is kind of like just journalist BS right now. I'm not buying any of it personally. I don't think it's like a remote possibility to bring him in.
I mean, a lot of rumors
just
are
too
journalist
expensive.
BS, so I feel you there.
Yeah, yeah. It's just too
That's
expensive.
coming
Like
out of
I
you
just
then,
don't think it's
John.
realistic.
All those rumors for you, then.
So yeah, I mean, he's aware that we shoot that rule,
Yeah.
but I think they're looking for some like less expensive options. And then the one other thing that might happen is we like supposedly like close to a deal with Legia Warsaw for this like young Polish center back, like 20 years old. His name is Solkowski, I think. So that might get done. That would be good. Defensive reinforcement. But yeah, left winger, left second bit needs to happen.
Yeah. We've got players that are maybe serviceable, like Elshaw, potentially Paul Donzi could play up there. Pisili doesn't really belong there, but like he could fit there if it was like necessary. And then Pellegrini is just, the guy's like been injured, right? And he got surgeries. Like I think he's missed all of preseason. I just don't think if we see him at all, I don't think we're going to see him until like halfway through the season at most. So that's like kind of a pretty big gap. And during the Everton friendly, it seemed like El Aynaoui was playing up there, which is kind of weird. So I think how the midfield is going to work out is still like a bit of a mystery to me. Like who's actually, I think Kone's kind of game in, game out starter, right? Aynaoui seems like a Gasperini profile type midfielder as well. Like was really all over the place, but you know, Sam and I are big Pisili fans, would love to see him get minutes, and who knows what happens with Cristante too. So that people can get kind of like stuffed into that left wing position, but nobody actually fits there.
Sure. So I think that wraps up the mercato for Roma here. Obviously, a couple of big needs, I would say, in my opinion. I still think there's a lot of work to do in terms of bringing this team to what I think is the best that what they can be. So let's jump into the core of the team, the roster, the day one starting 11 that we think is going to be running out onto the pitch here under Gasperini. And we'll, as we always do, we go goalie, defense, midfielders, forwards, and then we just build out the lineup in totality. But I will start with goalie here. It's very clearly one person and one person only, but the only reason I want to bring it up is because of the, I would guess, differing opinions on who's the best goalkeeper in Serie A between me and Motts. But at goalie, we do have Svilar, the official reigning goalie of the year for Serie A. We do have Vasquez, who came in from my own Milan. I don't think he ever saw the pitch outside of maybe a preseason game. So I'm sure he's just a body on the bench to maybe have some conversation with the other Spanish-speaking players. And then we do have Golini, who I think came in the, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he came in during the winter window from Empoli. In any case,
Yeah.
we all know sitting here who the day one guy is, who the guy throughout the season is going to be, and that is Svilar. And, you know, I know Motts personally feels this way, but really sell me on him. How many games last season did this guy really win for you on his own? Because I know that there's another goalie in the league that may or may not have won a couple more games by himself.
All of them? Yeah, all the games?
Yeah, I think I remember like maybe
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, like 2 times where he actually, I wouldn't even call them errors, right? Like he had to make a call, and like the call he made, just, you know, he wasn't able to get the job done. But I don't remember any like significant errors that he actually made that like directly went into a goal, right? And then for the most part, I mean, he was man of the match like 90% of the games last season. So definitely, yeah, if not all of them, the vast majority of them. And to be fair, Sam and I are both like Vanya quite a bit. I think he's like a really good goalkeeper, but he's just not Svilar, man. That guy's a hero.
We are big fans of Svilar, whether I show it or not. I am a big fan. Motts obviously as well.
Yeah. So I know that there was contract talk with Svilar this summer. Did you guys wrap that up? Where's that at?
Oh yeah, 2030.
Yeah, extended to yeah. So everything's good. Svilar's happy. He even it was quoted saying just a week ago. It's been 3 weeks since he resigned, but he was quoted a week ago saying, "Yeah, I actually wanted to extend for a longer time." So he wanted to wait the contract until 31 or 32.
Gotta love that. Love that. And I think that goes to, I believe, Sam's point of being able to keep your core at Roma, right? He's happy at Roma, wants to stay at Roma. And one of the reasons why Gasperini was attracted to the job.
Yeah, and I do just want to make note that is a Calcio Culture exclusive from Sam today. Svilar is happy at Roma. You heard it here first. Svilar happy at Roma as we go forward. Motts, run us through the defense really quick. One big name that shined through last season, and I think a couple of names that I want to highlight, and I want to hear Nate and Sam's take on it to see what the Lions still look like.
Yeah, so it's going to be a 3-back, we think, right, boys?
Yeah.
And so we have Ndika, Mancini, Angelino, Celik, Wesley, Divine Wrench, and Salah.
Adine, yeah.
Adine, there we go. Thank you for that assist there.
Yeah. You have it.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have pretty deep on the wing back position. Just reading through the names, there's some, I think, a tad light on the center back position. But who do we think is going to be day one starters? And let's start with the 3 center back position.
Yeah, I think you have to start Mancini. Well, you definitely have to start Ndika, right? That's just a kind of no-brainer. The guy played every game last season, and I think he can keep that up, aside from the African Cup this year. But I think you play Mancini in the center. I think he's better in the center than he is on the right. It kind of contains him a little bit. And then I'm hoping, so we just signed Giallorossi from Verona, and I'm hoping he takes the starting spot on the right. I'm not a huge Hermoso fan and not a huge Celik fan either, although I do think Celik is serviceable at, on the right as a center back, but as a wing back, I think he's useless. So.
Yeah, Ranieri kind of converted him into the right center back spot, and he was a much better fit there. Was serviceable for sure. So I think he'll be starting the season as the starting right center back. But the hope is eventually Giallorossi will take over, and Hermoso might be on the outs from what we're hearing. He'd kind of be his backup on the left, but he's his salary is pretty high. It's $5 million annually. We're hearing that Gasperini is not really feeling it. We'll see if he goes out.
So just based on the names, like I said, I think a little thin here. You guys said where you would like to see a position be brought in was left wing. Is center back the next one up? Would that have been the next answer if you didn't have a clear-cut starting left wing?
Yeah, so we with Hermoso and Kambula, we have that group, Giallorossi, Celik, Mancini, Ndika, Hermoso, Kambula. We have 6 center backs, which I think is plenty of depth. It's just that Kambula and Hermoso might kind of be on the outs of the project, in which case we would need to replace at least one, which could potentially be this Polish kid. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens there in the last couple of weeks in the market.
That's true. You guys are heavily linked with him. Okay, so then moving forward to the wing back position, I think we have kind of a clear-cut starter on the left in Angelino. He had a great season last year, arguably team of the season. Obviously, a lot of good left wing backs in the Serie A. So I think he got slightly snubbed. But then moving to the right side, you brought in a player from the Brazilian league who could potentially be the starter in Wesley. But I believe who started there last season? Was it more Divine Wrench or was it Celik more off the right in the right wing back spot?
It just kind of rotated. I think it was Celik a decent amount. And then, either generally Wrench would be behind him.
So you guys turned into Soule for a little bit, too. It was weird under Ranieri, and then like Salamatra's would occasionally play there. So it really hasn't been a fixed position for a while. We're expecting it's Wesley, I think, this year, right? Maybe like over Wrench.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I would even like to see, and I can't remember if he's gone or not, but Saoud Abdul Hamid, if he came back and played,
he's gone.
Oh man, that's too bad. The guy was so fast.
Yeah, you got loaned, I think, to Lens.
Yeah, not surprising. Like he's got stuff to work on, so he needs playing time. But just from like a pure speed perspective, it'd be awesome to have him on the field. So yeah, but I definitely think Wesley takes the starting spot.
So we think clear cut starting to Angelino, Wesley at the wingback position. And Nate, just want to get your take on Angelino, like what he does well, why you guys are such big fans of him, and the type of season he had last year.
And I would say also why he works so well with Ndika, just being the fact that they do hold down that left side, and I think it's the most clear-cut spot on the field aside from Kone as to who's going to be there.
Yeah, no, I mean, the guy can cross, which, I think he's been, from what I've seen, has been struggling a little bit in preseason, but I'm sure that gets locked down as we move into the regular season. But like for a very long time, I think Roma wanted to play a certain way and then just didn't have anybody who could put a good cross into the box. And then last year, especially, I think he and Salamakers, when Salamakers came back, like linked up really well, just like across the field. I think they kind of helped each other out just progressively. But I know for as small as he is really good in the air, like wins a lot of duels in the air, which is awesome. And then is also very progressive and like great defensively and, kind of moves. And I think partly because he is smaller, he can move around a little bit more and has good technical skills. So he and Ndika, I think, were just like could balance each other out, because if Ndika, was progressing the ball forward, Angelino could kind of back up and make sure that it was covered from a defensive perspective. So I think that's all been really good. And I mean, he scored a few goals last season that were pretty awesome also. So he's definitely got like the foot for it, which has been great. And
I've also never seen him tired.
Yeah.
He's an
engine is great, and like picked him up for $5 million. Yeah.
No, you love big signings like that. I mean, he kind of fell under the radar after a couple of years in the Bundesliga, and I think that's a perfect spot to be looking at guys that can fill out a roster and maybe just have a career revamping. But I love the signing of Wesley. Of course, right now, kind of the marquee signing of the summer. So you would like to see him start, but I do think that Divine Wrench was more than serviceable when he came in last year. And given the fact of how Gasperini used his wingbacks at Atalanta, you need to have two serviceable wingbacks on both sides. Even Zappacosta on Atalanta was getting a ton of burn and rightfully so, was performing incredibly well, but older on the legs, and that's why Ruggeri was getting time, and that's why I think that they Roma specifically had to go out here and bolster a spot that I think was already filled. But I think from a strategy perspective, it's very clear that the wingbacks are going to be incredibly important going forward for the season for this Roma side. So with that being said, that covers the defense for the most part. I'd love to move to the midfield here. A couple of big names, a couple of legacy names, like you said, guys, maybe some dead weight that may be moving on, maybe not. And then a couple of really good rising stars that we're incredibly excited about. So would love to hear your thoughts there. So we'll start with Brian. We are not fans of Brian, but Brian Cristante starting out the midfield here. Lorenzo Pellegrini, we will also call a midfielder for these purposes, although I do think that if he was at form, he could be playing that left wing spot that you guys are saying is a massive hole. But that does bring us to the new signing. I'll give it a go. Neil El Aynaoui. I'm just gonna pass on that one. Manu Kone, star of last season, arguably another game of the season player. Absolute stupendous signing last year for Roma, going out and getting him. I mean, he showed his worth from day zero. So great signing there. And then two young guys that we covered a bunch last season and that we are incredibly excited about to see what their progression is like, and that's in Pizzili and Baldanzi. So, guys, assuming we go to a two-man midfield like we did at Atalanta with Gasperini, who's starting? What kind of attributes are they going to bring to the table, especially considering the backdrop of, okay, when Gasperini and his time at Atalanta, for the most part, you had a guy like Ederson, who was end line to end line. I'm not going to say box to box, end line to end line, covering the entire pitch, engine. And then next to a guy like, for a little bit, was Toon Koopmeiners. Martin Jeroen played there as well. Pasalic, when needed, would drop in there from time to time, but more so a ball handler, more creative from an offensive perspective. So where do you guys see this shake out?
I mean, I think it should be Kone and El Aynaoui as like the starters day in, day out. And then because they're going to get burned out, I think that's where Soule and Cristante come in. And there's another kid, Alessandro Romano, who's like coming up from the Primavera that seems to be like a Gasperini profile. We'll see if he gets any time. And yeah, maybe Baldanzi as well. Baldanzi could also kind of fit into that more like attacking role. But Motts, are you seeing any of the Cristante McKennie swap rumors on your end?
Oh, no.
How do you feel about that?
No.
Listen, I've been seeing that. I was gonna bring that up. I'm okay to see McKennie leave, not for Brian. Like, but it will be Juventus will they'll probably make that happen. If you guys can get McKennie, I think that would be a great ad, especially if you're getting rid of Cristante. I hope that doesn't happen, but with the people running Juventus, that's probably gonna happen tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, we'd love to see it. We'd love to have a U.S. player, and we love McKennie on like the U.S. MNC. It'd be cool, and especially getting rid of Brian. But come on, Mats, he's an Italian knight. Signore Brian Cristante won the Euros, dude.
Yeah, I mean, what's up, Nate?
Well, the worst part about Cristante is that, like, he's fine. Like, he was bad and very frustrating to watch for a while under Mourinho, but I think he did pretty well under Ranieri. And from what I've seen, like, he hasn't been hateable in preseason under Gasperini. I think his biggest issue is that he's slow, and it seems like he only thinks about passing backwards. So, like, and then the occasional time that he gets his foot on the ball. Guys. Yeah, like, you know, occasionally he'll put his foot through it and like rocket one into somebody's legs or somehow manage to find the net. But yeah, it's every time you really start to get mad at him, he like goes and does something that totally redeems himself for, you know, at least 45 minutes.
Classic.
He does definitely have that. Yeah, you could make a good drinking game out of Cristante's back passes, though, for sure.
Yeah, him and Lloyd Kelly.
Perfect for Juve. Perfect. But I think we glanced over it, and I know that you guys mentioned that you have 6 decently usable guys at center back here, but what are your thoughts on Cristante playing at the center back in a pinch, especially if you do let Hermoso go and you don't bring in another guy? I mean, I know that he's played there in the past decently well. I think that his player profile fits that position well. For me, that's a nightmare rotation, having Mancini and Cristante in the same back line, but I'll leave it to you guys.
I think that's where Cristante is really underappreciated. Like, he is a soldier. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think he can do it. I think he plays that defensive role pretty well, especially if he's kind of like locked in there to a certain extent. If he doesn't have responsibilities other than that, where he's like going to be somewhere on the pitch where he just loses his man, then I think, like, yeah, I'm for it, because he did do well under Mourinho when he was playing back there. He definitely fit. Like, he's tall. He can win a lot in the air, which I think is like an underrated stat of his, maybe because you're concentrating on all the other annoying shit that he does. But yeah, I think it's serviceable if needed, not preferable, but
emergencies only. Yeah,
sure. And sometimes you do need that. Sometimes you do. Before we move to the forwards, I would love for you guys to tell the Paisans again, and for some of these newcomers coming to season 2 may not know these names. So again, like I said, very exciting two people out of the midfield here that I'd love to highlight really quick. And maybe if you guys can just highlight the really big differences between the two and where they should be looking for them on the field, no matter where they are in the lineup. But I'm talking about Pizzili and I'm talking about Baldanzi. Maybe a quick highlight there.
We love Vasily. I think he's behind Kone and El Aynaoui on the depth chart, but he's great and will be great. And as long as he's utilized properly in the center midfield, I think he'll be great. I think we'll get a chance to stop Gasperini and get right time. So look for him to be the starter, like maybe in the Europa League games.
Yeah, number 61, kind of small looking guy, but got some, at least thin, right? Not super like physically imposing, but he's relatively tall and dark hair. So if you're looking for him, that's what he looks like. But progressive, and also I think reads the game really well. I think where and when we saw him like do really well, and I think where we would like to see him, at least me and Sam, is in that central midfield role, like actually controlling the pace of the game. I think he does that really well and like better than Kone, and also kind of sees those passes. I think Kone is great at holding the ball, right? But Vasily, I think, is better at game management and like progressing the ball. And then Baldanzi, just a tiny little guy, like Dybala kind of profile, extremely technical and just kind of Naruto runs around the pitch a little bit, which is awesome. Like he's quick and he's mobile and he's got great technical skills. I think people have issues with some of his finishing, which is, I think, fair. But I would also point out that pretty much everybody at Roma seems to love to kick it directly into people's legs and or directly at the keeper when they have an open shot on goal. So, but otherwise, like when he's in, I think he gets involved really well and is able to open up the game in ways that other people we've seen that are more progressive or supposed to be more progressive haven't been able to do.
100%. 100%. So that covers the midfield here. A lot to have been talked about and a lot to watch this season. But with that being said, without further ado, let's talk about the front line. Let's talk about how Gasperini is going to manage the attackers up front. And I would be remiss to not let Motts and our in-house Juve fan talk about the forwards, as Juve has funded this entire front line.
I don't know about entire front line, but two very key pieces for sure. Yeah, this is a good line. This is at every player
100%.
is a good player. You got El Shaarawy, Matteo Soule, who you've absolutely robbed from Juventus, and we overpaid for Conceição, and we had a better version of him in-house. Oh well. Paulo Dybala, another absolute just rob, just for free, who's just an absolute, when he's healthy, he's probably one of, if not the best players in the Serie A. You have Dovbyk, who started slow, but started to figure out the league and scored, I believe, 18 goals last season. So I'm expecting to see him hit the floor running, especially under the Gasperini system. Then you have Evan Ferguson, who you guys just brought in the summer. We covered him a little bit in the transfer market section. Obviously, has a very high ceiling of a player. So very excited to see this line. What do you guys think, and I'll go to Nate here, will be the starting three? And also your guys' take on the forever puzzle of Dybala, Soule on that right-hand side.
And just to say, if you guys think it might be a front two, we're definitely here for it, but just assumably that going with that 3-4-3 setup that we've been running with. But I think Motts' question is 100% what we need to cover at some point here is that forever puzzle.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because I don't know what the answer is. I think you can play Dybala more central. So if you wanted to play something like maybe a 3-4-1-2, right? You can put him in that central role and have Soule push farther up, which, yeah, Sam and I were going to talk about this, a little salt in the wound, but he's just so good, man. It's unbelievable. Like he got off to a slow start last season, but you would see him do some things where you're just like, oh, holy crap, right? Like he's just awesome. So thank you, on behalf of Juve.
Well, we got Dusan Vlahovic. That's why we let him go. So, you know.
Yeah, real steal there. Yeah, I think.
Stop buying Fiorentina players. Nico Gonzalez,
I know.
Vlahovic, yeah.
Giving them.
And
then
them
Fajoli, too.
And Moise Kean.
Yeah. It's a tough time in Turin, but we're battling through. But back to Roma. And
enough about Juve's players. More about Roma.
Yeah. No, I think you have to start Soule. And I also think that you kind of have to start Dybala when he's healthy. I just think what he brings from like a experience perspective, like you just have to have that there, and also just pure magic. But I don't see Soule can't play on the left. They tried that last year and it just did not work. And I think Dybala really only makes sense if he's in the middle. So I think that left spot is still kind of open. And then I think you have to start Dovbyk. I would like to see him start. I think Sam and I have been talking about this recently because, I'm like an internet troll looking for content all the time. So all I'm just doing is reading people's contents or comments in there. There's a lot of I personally think somewhat unjustified Dovbyk hate going on from Roma fans where people don't think he's that good. And I think there's kind of two camps where it's people think he sucks. And then nobody's actually necessarily arguing that he's good. People are just arguing that he doesn't suck because we haven't seen enough of him quite yet, and enough of him with consistency to really make that call on whether he's actually good or not. But I think with Gasperini, he's banging in goals, especially if they figure out the crossing thing. There's just no way he isn't scoring, and I think you have to give him that confidence as a starter right at the beginning of the season, because if you don't do that, then he's probably going to drop out. So the left wing thing I think is still somewhat of a mystery. You can put Elshaw there. I don't think he's a game in, game out starter, and generally better as a sub. Maybe Ferguson, right? You can kind of play around with that, but I do see Soule, Dybala, and Dovbyk all starting. Just how it works out, I'm not totally sure.
And then Sam, are you in a similar boat, or do you think it's different?
Yeah, I think it seems like Gasperini's preference is going to be more of a 3-4-2-1 situation, and that's why it's Soule would be on the right, or maybe Dybala would be on the right. Player X, I guess, would be on the left as a starter. But I think it's Nate and I kind of think it's better set up right now for a 3-4-1-2, and just kind of that triangle gives you more flexibility. Dybala can play as a 10, Soule can play where he wants to play on the right, and then you have Dovbyk as the traditional striker. But then you could also move. You could try Soule out as a 10. You could try Baldandi out as a 10, and then that frees up Dybala can play on the right as the forward with Dovbyk, or Ferguson, or Ferguson and Dovbyk can play together. I think that gives you a lot more variety, especially if we don't get this left winger, left attacking mid situation figured out. So I'm curious to see what it looks like. I just want goals, I think, and I think Soule is the key to that.
I mean, I will say to your point, Nate, about Dybala and his magic and how good he is, this is a similar situation that we had with Juventus. And where do you play him if it's not going to be off the right? He's so unique in that. And he's also, we obviously know he has his inconsistency with his health. So building a team around him or a system around him when he's not there can be obviously pretty bad. But you guys having Soule, who kind of is a very similar profile as Dybala, has that magic, just doesn't have the experience. I think that would be, you got to let Soule grow fully into the future Dybala and play him in his spot where he needs in the right, or off the second striker and let him float in the right-hand spot. But I do really like the shout of the switching it to the 1-2. Once again, just tying it back to Juventus. I really want them to do that as well. So I really like that shout.
The inverted triangle definitely solves that left wing problem 100%, right? And I think that when you look at Gasperini coming in, the last thing you want to do is force a formation that's just not going to fit the roster. But we can talk about this for hours on end, but the step forward that Dovbyk and that Soule need to take this season cannot be understated. But I don't think that there's a better person in the league to have them take that step than Gasperini. But if Soule can get going, it can really turn into Dybala 2.0 fully, and Dovbyk. So Soule into Dybala, Dovbyk into what we saw in that La Liga, flash in the pan, 31 goals on the season. I think that's going to be such a deadly, exciting team to watch. And I think that we Motts, Vos, and I were kind of calling for it last year with a three-headed dragon. There was no dragon out of that offense, but maybe they can bring that back this season. But I think, Nate, you nailed it too. If the crossing from the wingbacks can really get going, Dovbyk being the big guy that he is, and with an inverted triangle, you can get Evan and Ferguson in the game at the same time as well. There's not too many center back pairings in the league that are going to be able to deal with that on a 90-minute basis, if that's the case. So I think it's an incredibly exciting opportunity for this team and for Gasperini to get really creative up top. So with that being said, we've got a lot of players. We covered a lot of players, but only 11 can play on the pitch at the same time. So Nate, day one, given a lot of the preseason that you've watched, what's your starting 11? Who's the best 11 out there? What formation? And then, we'll kick it to Sam, but one more past that, who's really the shining star? Who's the MVP from that starting 11 for the season?
Yeah, I think for right now, just because I think it'd be more interesting and because we have that gap, I'll go with the 3-4-1-2. Even if it doesn't necessarily look like that originally, I think it might just morph into that naturally during the matches. But best goalkeeper in the league, got to start. So he's going to be out there. Then I think, yeah, no, I think still Spieler. Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, and then in the back three, I think you have Indica, Mancini, and probably Celik, but I'm hoping very shortly Gilardi. And then midfield 2, it's got to be Kone and El Aynaoui. Just makes the most sense right now. On your wingbacks, Angelino and Wesley. And then I think in that one role, probably Dybala, and then Dovbyk and Soule up top. What would make the most sense? And I think MVP for the season, I kind of want to say El Aynaoui just because I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, but
Okay.
More realistically, it's probably going to be Soule. But yeah,
maybe Spieler.
Maybe Spieler again, but yeah, I think El Aynaoui, actually seeing him play, I was really excited about, especially after reading, a bunch of people being disappointed about it. It's like, oh, like this guy actually looks like he plays in the midfield. He was all over the place. So that was awesome to see because we haven't had that for years.
I will say, if Svilar is the MVP of this season, I do not think Roma is going to have the result that we want them to have. So let's hope not. Sam, any big differences from that? Any big takes?
No, I have the exact same lineup. I guess I'll just add that I want to see Basili giving Kone or El Aynaoui rest and starting alongside either one kind of throughout the season. But no, otherwise exact same lineup, exact same formation. We're in total agreement. And then the other thing I'll mention is I expect to see Ferguson getting some starts as well, rotating for Dovbyk, probably like a 70-minute sub situation for each of them. Like if Ferguson starts, Dovbyk will sub at 70 and vice versa. So MVP of the season, I was expecting Nate to say Soule or Spieler, and I was just going to take the other one. So
there we go. And they're brothers for a reason. Yeah. Motts, any thoughts there? Any differences from them?
No, I like it. I'm all for the 3-4-1-2. I hope multiple teams run that formation this season. I really, as much as I hate saying this, I think Soule is going to take off this season, and Juventus is going to regret selling him. You really do have. El Shaarawy is a great substitute to have, but I think you have 4 starters that can start at any game and beat any team in the league or in the Europa League in Soule, Dybala, Dovbyk, and Ferguson. So I really think you can't go wrong. And what's beautiful about it is they can all play with each other. Like you can do a Dybala as the 10 and then a Ferguson and Dovbyk, 2 out-and-out strikers at the 2. You can do a Soule at the 10. You can do a Soule off Dovbyk or Ferguson. You can even put Dybala up top. Gasperini can really do whatever he wants, and that always leads to what the best style of soccer, which is extreme fluidity, players playing in different positions off of each other. So very excited for the up top of what Roma is going to do this season. Also being the fact that it's Gasperini, and they're just going to attack. So I expect to see a lot of goals from this forward class.
3-headed dragon, round 2. We'll see if it happens. I definitely agree with you guys. I think that the day one lineup is pretty much set in stone aside from any transfer news that we see in the last month here. But the the thing I'm most excited about, and you guys talked about it a bunch, is really going to be that rotation and seeing who gets playing time where. Gasperini knows how to manage through 3 competitions. Dybala needs a little bit of game management these days with his injury woes. And so I do think that there's going to be some rotation. There's going to be some significant playing time from some guys who definitely needed to take that next step in their career. So with that being said, I just said it, 3 competitions, Gasperini coming in, couple of new transfers, core still intact, young guys abound. What do you guys think is a successful season from this Roma side? I think there's incredibly high expectations from the pod, but definitely want to hear from you guys. Is it a Scudetto? Is it just top 4? How many trophies are we looking at? How much hardware is coming back to the capital city? Sam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, it's just top 4. It's been a very long time. I think it's been 7 years since Roma was in the Champions League. So that is the objective. That's success. I don't care if it's 4th place and 5th place is tied with us on points, but has 1 less in goal differential. I do not care. Just give me top 4. And I think that is achievable this season, just because I think I only see Napoli as you could argue Inter and Milan might be better teams than Roma still, but I think everyone outside of Napoli and kind of the traditional contenders for top 4 is a huge question mark. It's going to be a really interesting season, really competitive for those
Motts,
2, 3, and 4 spots.
Did you notice he didn't mention Juve as a better team than Roma? No.
Sorry,
No, I'm in full agreement with him.
Struggle.
Full agreement with him. We're in shambles. We can't even sign the best player on the team last year. But so then what about a successful season in the Europa League lens, Sam? Where do you think that falls?
Are you just quitting on the Europa League? Are we throwing out the B team? What's going on there?
I mean, that's not up to me. I mean, I love the Europa League. I mean, I love watching the European competition. So I want Roma to stay in the competition as long as possible. Obviously, I want them to do as well there as possible. But if we were to crash out and that resulted in top 4, I would be upset about it.
For one, I have been on record saying I would love to just forget certain trophies. So I totally agree with you. There is not a wrong answer in saying forget about a certain competition, because you got to focus on the one goal. And that if that's top 4, then you got to get top 4. Everything else is gravy on top. Nate, what's your take?
For the most part, I agree with Sam. I think I'm a little bit more cautious. I think it is reasonable to expect top 4 with consistency and with the roster that we have. That's where we should be. I also thought that last year, and then things just kind of exploded 4 games into the season. So, but then, we had that consistency with Ranieri, and I think we did so well, right? And we still missed out, but it wasn't by much. And it was really only because we didn't have that consistency. So, I think that really puts us in a lot better of a position this season. Yeah, top 4, I think is more important. I also like the Europa League. I mean, it's more matches to watch, which is great. I think it's fun to play internationally. I don't love UEFA, but I do like the idea of the competition. And then the Coppa Italia is fun, but I don't know. Personally, I kind of, in a weird way, I like to see underdogs go far in the Coppa. I just don't care as much about that. Yeah.
Bologna winning last year was cool.
It was fine. Cool. It was whatever.
Sorry, it's loads.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Empoli beating Juventus was cool as well.
That was awesome.
That was a hey. Yeah.
Well, I think we almost lost to Cremonese in the Coppa Italia a couple years ago. So I think it's just a cup that's there to make sure that big teams get embarrassed. But to clarify, I don't think Roma is superior to everyone but Napoli. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it's I think everyone outside of Napoli is going to struggle. All those traditional teams Atalanta, Lazio, Fiorentina, Bologna is really the only team that has kind of stayed on the right track. Everyone else has had manager turnover, pretty significant player turnover. So
which is amazing, which I think also happened last season, right? Like you said, the 3, 4, 5, 6 spots went down to the last match day. I don't think it's going to change at all this season, just because, like you said, all the turmoil and turnover between each team, besides Napoli really. They've kept everybody and then they just added their players. Everyone else, I would agree, is in a similar boat where we got to kind of learn how to play under a new manager with new players. So it's going to be a great season.
Most competitive league out there, man.
That's it.
100%.
That's
Yeah.
it. Let's go.
Best league.
That's
That's why we love the
sure.
Serie A.
Yeah.
Why we love the Serie A. Even though
Also
it's
just like the
bankrupt and we don't
craziest-
spend money.
Like the craziest stuff. Like the Italian culture around soccer and like around Serie A. You guys have talked about it a few times on the podcast, but it's just like, what are you guys doing? Get it figured out, okay?
Yeah, let's not forget about the Lazio Falconer,
They-
who was got a new dick.
Hey,
and
I mean,
was
if
showing it
you
off.
get it, if you're gonna get the upgrade, you gotta show some. But
Yeah.
that's just my take. But expectations aside, boys, where you're calling it today, where is Roma ending up in the table? Is it 4? Are we
calling my-
ending at 4?
Calling my shot, I'm gonna go with 3.
Great.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Finally,
a little more.
a little discrepancy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I was like, oh, I'm a little bit more cautious, but I
Yeah.
think I tend to be more cautious and then things kind of go in a better direction. So I don't know. I think if we, I'm expecting some growing pains, right? First couple matches, which I feel like was Atalanta's issue too, right? Like first couple matches, they kind of dropped some points just getting into the season, especially after Gasperini's preseason. But I think once things really start to like flow, I think it's gonna be hard to beat.
So you don't
Yeah,
think some of that consistency that Roma found from December to June last year carries over because it's under a new manager?
I think the pressing style of play is just totally different than what Ranieri was doing. So I think, that consistency like goes away, even though you have like Svilar is kind of the only consistent part of that because his job hasn't changed. Everyone else has to play
It was
different
You
roles.
could see it, I think, in the preseason, like the Everton match. Like I said, they're in better shape than we've ever seen them, which is awesome. All for that. But you could tell the pace and the tempo didn't necessarily match up. Like they're playing off one-touch passes a lot more, which is great. But as a result, like they are missing more passes and turning the ball over more. And they're getting it back right away, which is awesome because they're pressing. But I think they need to figure out now that they're like moving faster, right, in general and trying to attack more, like that tempo that they need of like, don't just like send it out immediately, but also don't slow down too much. They've got to figure that out. And I think they're still getting there.
Sure. If Gasperini's known for anything, especially from last season, you're going to get the best of the best on one day, and it's just not going to work on a different day. So I think that roller coaster is still going to be a little bit intact, and it's going to be a lot of growing pains for sure. I think that Motts and I are going to hold back on our predictions until we do a full table prediction coming up in a couple of weeks. But Paisans, that's a wrap on Roma. Sam, Nate, Frasco, boys, thank you for joining. It
Appreciate
was an
it.
awesome time having you. I don't know if I can put real claps in there. We'll have to have our special effects expert votes have to look at that. But guys, it was an absolute pleasure. You were stupendous tonight. And I think that the Paisans will certainly agree. We're incredibly excited to see what this Roma side has to offer this season. And we certainly will have to check back in with you guys mid-season. How about that?
Sounds great. Yeah. Appreciate you guys having us. We've been fans since you guys got started. This has been great. And good luck to you guys also through the season.
Thank you.
Yeah, love the pod. Looking for the table predictions and all that. Looking forward to the specific squad breakdowns as
100%.
well. So
100%.
thanks for having us.
Well, Paisans, again, like I said, that's a wrap. Roma, big season ahead. We will be back either later this week or next week, hopefully with an AC Milan review from your one and only fan on the pod, because Vos doesn't have a favorite team. He's fake.
What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that?
Is his favorite team Atalanta now, or is he just like his favorite team is Serie A? Because that's
He was
kind of
saying
what
he was saying Torino the other day, so I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah.
If I think if you guys maybe like feature your own fandom stories as you go through like Juve, Milan, and I guess both can do it for every team in the league now. Yeah, we'd love to
For
do that
sure.
back
I think
then,
I've
too.
I think
That'd
I've
be cool.
mentioned mine a little bit, but I can when we do a Juventus one, I'll break it down. Mine makes no sense. You guys are gonna think I'm a fraud, but that's okay. What I will say though is Paisanos, if you want to come on, please comment. We're looking to do this more. We want to get you guys involved. So please comment on the YouTube videos, what team you like, what you want us to talk about. Reach out to us. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Calcio Culture FC. Right, Logs?
That's right. And you can find us on all your favorite streaming sites, Apple Pods and Spotify. So with that being said, Motts, take us away.
Paisanos, do not be a gagoots, and Forza Calcio Culture.